New year, new debts to be paid.
My name is Elena Carter. As I write this, I am in my apartment in London, watching the rain fall gently outside my window, washing away the city lights like evidence of a crime. People find rain impressive. I think it only erases traces that should never have been there. It all started in New York. From the outside, my life looked amazing. I grew up around Madison Avenue, so to speak. I went to good schools, had the right connections, and was the woman who smiled in all the right places. And finally, I had reached that position everyone envied: strategy director at Vernon and Blythe Consulting. I first saw Adrian in the company meeting room. The Hudson River flowed behind us. As he leaned over the table and extended his hand, I felt as if he were touching my soul, not just my skin. "Elena Carter," he said, "I've heard a lot about you." Our handshake lasted longer than usual. People might not have noticed, but I did. After that day, everything started to take off. Adrian wanted me by his side. I attended meetings with him. I gave my presentations in his shadow. I, who had previously been a ghost in the company, was now being heard more. And then, the classic trap: closeness. At first, I couldn't believe it. I was smart and clever. I could never be anyone's sidekick. But Adrian was the type who somehow managed to draw people in slowly. One night at a restaurant in Soho, there were only 2 glasses of Cabernet Sauvignon and Adrian's voice at our table. "Someone like you doesn't deserve this company. You're more than that." At that moment, my spider senses went off. Because he wasn't saying these words like a man's desire. He was saying them like a promise from God. And I listened to him. That night, it wasn't a little kiss that started our relationship. The kiss was the result of that day. What really started it was the trust I felt for him. People don't realize they're being manipulated when they make decisions they think they belong to. That's exactly what happened to me. Weeks, even months passed. We were now a secret. Everyone in the company was talking about Adrian's star, meaning me. But no one saw that my star was shining in his sky. Then one morning, everything started to fall apart. There was a new project at Vernon and Blythe, the Orchid Initiative. This project was the biggest deal in the company's history. My analysis, my strategies, my sleepless nights, it was all for Orchid. On the day of the presentation, Adrian walked into the conference room. The room was packed. The company's partners, investors, even the press were there. I was sitting in the back row. Every breath Adrian took on stage made my heart race. Because the presentation was actually me. My mind. My words. In short, my work. And Adrian began to speak. The slides moved smoothly. The data slowly appeared on the screen. People nodded. They took notes. And then, my name. But my name never came out of Adrian's mouth. At the end of the presentation, applause broke out in the room. One of the partners stood up and shook Adrian's hand. "Brilliant," he said. "You've outdone yourself, Adrian." Something snapped inside me at that moment. It wasn't just shock. Seeing the praise I deserved given to someone else created an indescribable coldness inside me. When the meeting ended, he came over to me. With that unnecessary, easy smile of his, as if everything was fine, as if nothing had happened, he leaned in. "Don't take it personally. That's just how the game is played," he whispered. That's just how the game is played. A game! My hard work was a game to him, but his ambition was real. That moment was the turning point in my life. But the real blow would come the next morning. When I walked into the office that morning, everyone was looking at me. A silence, louder than I had ever heard, enveloped the entire office. My assistant handed me an envelope without even looking at my face. Inside the envelope was an official letter from the company. Internal investigation notice. It was addressed to me. Unauthorized data access and suspicion of information leakage in the Orchid Initiative files. The first thing I felt wasn't anger. It was the pain of knowing Adrian was capable of doing this. I took out my phone to call him. Of course, he didn't answer. I tried several times, but all attempts failed. I sent a message. "Why did you do this?" A few minutes later, a message came. "Don't get emotional. I'm protecting us." Us? He was preparing to destroy me, to save himself. And I was finally beginning to see it. That afternoon, the company's legal department questioned me. A barrage of questions, a mountain of files. And I focused on one thing: Adrian's eyes. He was there, in a corner, quiet, calm, strong, like a man untouched even by the smoke of his own fire. When our eyes met, I saw only one emotion in his eyes: victory. At that moment, a decision was made inside me. Not a feeling, a decision. Clear, silent, irrevocable. I would not be a victim of Adrian Hale's game. I would take control of the game. That evening, I bought a one-way ticket to London, because Adrian was going to destroy me in New York. But the place where I would destroy him had to be where he thought he was safe. And Adrian Hale's roots were in London. I looked out the window. As the city shrank, the old Elena inside me shrank too. Only one cold, clear intention remained. I would be his biggest mistake. And I would make him pay for that mistake slowly. London, of course, would not welcome me with open arms. London can't be loving about anything. It just takes things in and shapes them to suit itself. I rented a small flat in Mayfair. It wasn't expensive, and it was in the right place, close enough to Adrian's world and convenient for my plan. I was invisible for the first week. I drank coffee on Baker Street, watching the surroundings and the people, mapping Adrian's environment. I sought out old acquaintances. Charlotte Wynne. We used to work at the same company years ago, but she was let go because she knew too much. I never forget people like her. I found Charlotte in a bar in Shoreditch. She had changed her hair and her gaze had hardened. Without beating around the bush, I said, "Adrian Hale." She smiled at first, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was a disgusted smile. "Is that why you're here?" she asked. "He destroyed me. Now it's his turn," I said. She slammed her glass on the table and leaned in close to me. "Adrian has a weakness," she said. This was, of course, not a romantic weakness, but a financial one. At that moment, the stone inside me settled into place. Adrian had no heart, but he had a lot to lose. And I had learned very well how to make people lose. The information Charlotte gave me was simple but deadly. Adrian Hale was not as perfect as he told everyone. His career in London looked brilliant, but sometimes brilliance is just light hitting at the right angle. His real power wasn't his intelligence, but his ability to play people off against each other. And what fueled that ability was the flow of money. Charlotte gave me a name: Elias Crown. Adrian's long-lost partner, officially a private equity advisor, but in reality the polished face of shady deals. Charlotte's only words were, "Find Crown, and you'll catch Adrian by the throat." The first step in my plan wasn't to approach Adrian. It was to buy my way to him. 2 days later, I walked into Elias Crown's company. Inside, it was quiet, extremely expensive, and perfectly sterile. People don't breathe in places like this. They merely exist. I handed my card to the woman at the reception desk. Elena Carter, independent strategic consultant. I wasn't lying, just withholding information. Elias accepted me that same day. He had probably looked up my name, and the scandal in New York had snowballed within the industry. People love scandals, because someone else's downfall satisfies their egos. Elias's room overlooked the Thames. He was a man in his 50s with silver hair and hunger in his eyes. He extended his hand, a slight smile on his face. "Miss Carter," he said, "I can't help but mention you have an interesting reputation." I smiled back. "Reputation is just a story," I said. "I prefer the truth." That sentence opened the door for me. Of course, I didn't mention Adrian Hale to him. The biggest mistake in our line of work is putting the target on the table too early. Instead, I offered Elias something more valuable: access. The Orchid Initiative. The details of the New York deal, the strategy files, the competitor analysis. I carried it all in my mind. I didn't need any documents. I was the document. His eyes lit up as he listened to me. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. I leaned back slightly. "Because I'm tired of being used," I said. "Because I should be the one holding the knife." At that moment, Elias understood who I was. He smelled revenge. People divide revenge into two categories: the kind they fear and the kind they use. Elias thought he could use me, and I wanted exactly that. After that meeting, Elias made me an offer. I would work as a consultant, unofficially, behind the scenes. But in return, the doors to London's dirtiest financial circles would open for me. That was what I needed. Because the way to take down Adrian wasn't to hurt his pride, but to undermine his foundation. Within a week, I was in Elias's world. Dinner parties, closed meetings, whispered deals. And every time, Adrian's name would come up somehow. He was still the genius strategist in London. People admired him. I, however, stored every compliment like a nail. Finally, I saw him. The Halcyon Club, Kensington. A place where old money sat at the same table as new money, where everyone sized each other up. When Adrian entered, the room turned to him. He wore a flawless suit. His smile was as smooth as the old lie. He had a woman with him, Vivian Moore, the daughter of one of London's most powerful media investors. Adrian was no longer just a corporate man, he was building himself a noble future. I watched from a distance. The anger inside me felt like it belonged to the old Elena. I was different now. Colder. Clearer. Charlotte was beside me. "Are you going to go talk to him?" she whispered. I shook my head. "No," I said. "He'll have to come see me first." I didn't approach Adrian that night, but I made eye contact with the woman beside him. Vivian's gaze studied me, pausing for a moment, as if she recognized me. Then a slight shadow of doubt appeared on his face. That shadow was my second move, because the best form of revenge is when the target begins to question themselves. And even if Adrian Hale wasn't aware of it, he had fallen into my trap. When the Halcyon Club night ended, the crack on Adrian's face grew. You don't need to spill blood to destroy a man's reputation in London. Saying the right words at the right moment is enough. That's exactly what I did. Now, the whole city was talking about Adrian. Even Adrian himself was talking about himself now. For the first time, his inner voice was not obeying him. At first light the next day, Elias Crown called me. His voice was quite calm, but there was an icy coldness beneath it. "Adrian is panicking. You pushed him too hard," he said. "Quite the opposite. I didn't push him hard enough," I said. Elias paused briefly before continuing. "Ashford is transferring. If this becomes public, it will hurt everyone." The word everyone in that sentence was Adrian's real weakness. Adrian couldn't fight alone. What protected him were the interests of powerful people. Take those interests away, and Adrian was left exposed. That same afternoon, I went to meet with Adrian. He chose the location, the roof of the Langham Hotel. He clearly wanted to hide behind luxury and glamour as usual. I, however, was there not to hide, but to finish it. When Adrian entered, he scanned me with his eyes. The confidence that once impressed me was gone. In its place was a fear hidden behind calculations. "Elena," she said, "what do you want?" I didn't sit down in the chair she pulled out. I chose to remain standing. "My name, my job, and the truth," I said. Adrian laughed, but his voice cracked. "What truth? Do you think anyone cares about the truth?" I leaned closer to the table. I lowered my voice. "They'll care when it costs them something," I said. He pulled a file from his stylish leather briefcase. Inside was an agreement. If I signed, the investigation in New York would be closed. My name would be cleared, and I would even be offered a high-paying position. In other words, he was offering me a new life. But I had learned the hard way not to trust him. I pushed the file back. "I won't buy freedom from the one who stole it from me," I said. The nervous softness on Adrian's face gave way to anger. "You're making enemies," he said. "I'm tired of being the pretty prey," I said. I pulled a single piece of paper from my pocket, a brief summary showing the dates of the Ashford transfers. It wasn't a document. It was a threat. Adrian's eyes widened for a moment. For the first time, he truly exercised his right to remain silent. "Don't," he whispered nervously. "Then listen," I said. "Tomorrow morning, you will confess everything. The Orchid Initiative was my project. You will say in writing that you used me and plotted against me." "Impossible," he said. "Not impossible for you. You're perfect at talking," I said. As I walked toward the door, he called after me. "Elena, if I do this, you'll burn too." I paused for a moment and turned my head. "I'm already burned. Now it's your turn. Time to get caught in the smoke of the fire you started." Tonight, the rain in London didn't wash away the traces because Adrian Hale's story was no longer under his control. And my revenge wasn't his end. It was his daily fall.